At first glance, the giraffe looks almost harmless. Too tall. Too quiet. Too strange to be dangerous. But hidden inside that impossibly long neck is one of the most violent weapons ever created by evolution. Male giraffes don't gently wrestle. They don't push each other like deer or headbutt like goats. They swing their skulls like medieval war hammers. A single, brutal, bone-crushing swing. One strike can crack bones, destroy vertebrae, and send a 2,000-pound animal collapsing to the ground. The sound of that impact echoes across the savanna. You can hear it from hundreds of yards away. It sounds like two baseball bats hitting each other at full force. And here's the strangest part. The giraffe was never supposed to survive this. Its neck is absurdly long, up to 8 feet. Its blood pressure is dangerously high, almost 3 times higher than a human's. Its entire body is balancing on the edge of a biological disaster. So, why would evolution create such a fragile, extreme creature? Because the giraffe's neck was never just for reaching leaves. That's what we were taught in school. But it's only half the truth. The neck became a weapon. A helmet. A shock absorber. And one of nature's most extreme engineering experiments. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden anatomy that transformed the giraffe into a living siege weapon. We'll look inside its bones, its muscles, its blood vessels, and even its heart. And the deeper we go, the stranger this animal becomes. Let's start with the skeleton. Look closely at a giraffe skeleton. Despite its massive size, up to 19 feet tall, the giraffe still has only 7 neck vertebrae. Exactly the same number as a human, a mouse, or a whale. 7 bones. That's it. But evolution stretched each one of those 7 bones to an extreme. Some vertebrae are longer than a human forearm, up to 10 inches. And they're not just long. They're reinforced. Deep inside the neck sits the real weapon. A specific vertebra built for impact. Scientists call it the epistrophius. It's the second neck vertebra. In most mammals, dogs, horses, even humans, this bone is small and delicate. It weighs only a few grams. Its job is just to let you turn your head. But in giraffes, the epistrophius became dense, massive, and heavily reinforced. It weighs nearly 2 pounds. And inside, it's filled with extra bone struts, like rebar inside concrete. Why would a neck bone need to be so strong? Here's why. During combat, this exact vertebra absorbs the full force of the strike. Male giraffes stand side by side. They swing their necks wider and wider, like giant pendulums. It looks almost peaceful. Almost like a slow-motion dance. But then, they explode into motion. The neck whips forward at over 30 miles per hour. The skull accelerates faster than a sprinter. And the entire mass, hundreds of pounds of muscle and bone, crashes into the opponent's body. The impact force exceeds 1,000 newtons. Let me put that in perspective. That's like being hit by a 60-pound bag of cement thrown from a speeding golf cart. Or like slamming a sledgehammer into a concrete wall with your bare hands. This force is enough to shatter ribs, fracture vertebrae, and knock a 1,500-pound animal off its feet. You'd think that such a violent impact would destroy the attacker's own neck. Any ordinary mammal, a horse, a cow, even a lion, would break its spine attempting this. The vertebrae would crack. The ligaments would tear. The spinal cord could be severed. But the giraffe survives. Not once. Not twice. Thousands of times over its lifetime. Some males fight for decades. They endure hundreds of battles. And they walk away without a single neck fracture. So, how does their skull survive these impacts? And why doesn't their own spine shatter? That's where evolution added the next upgrade. And it sits right on top of their head. Look at a giraffe's head. You'll see those strange, horn-like bumps. Scientists call them ossicones. At first glance, they look harmless. Almost cute. Covered in skin and fur, they seem soft, like a child's toy. But beneath that skin is solid bone. And here's what's really strange. In female giraffes, the ossicones stay relatively small and thin. They're just tiny knobs. But in males, these structures grow thicker and heavier with age. They start as cartilage, then slowly turn to bone. And eventually, after several years, they fuse directly to the skull itself. No joint. No gap. Just one solid, continuous piece of bone. Why would evolution do that? Because that fusion creates a single, rigid mass. A biological battering ram. During combat, male giraffes slam these ossicones into the neck and ribs of their rivals. They swing their heads like a wrecking ball. The ossicones hit first. They concentrate all the force into a small, hard surface. Some battles last for hours. The animals take turns striking each other. They bleed. They bruise. Sometimes they collapse from exhaustion. Yet the skull rarely fractures. Why? Because the ossicones act like natural crash helmets. They spread the impact energy over a wider area. They absorb the shock before it reaches the brain. But there's still a huge problem. Even if the skull survives, even if the ossicones do their job, the neck should still snap apart. Think about it. Every strike sends enormous shock waves down the spine. The vertebrae are long and heavy. The forces involved are brutal. In a human, just a fraction of this force could cause paralysis or death. A single bad hit to the neck, and you're in a wheelchair for life. So, why doesn't the giraffe collapse after every battle? How does its spine survive thousands of violent impacts without breaking? The answer is hidden deep inside the neck. Evolution secretly rebuilt the entire structure from the inside out. Not just the bones, but the muscles and ligaments too. And that brings us to the third secret. The most impressive one. A giraffe's neck is not just long. It is precisely engineered. The muscles and ligaments inside it are arranged differently from almost every other mammal on Earth. Biologists have studied this for decades. And what they found is extraordinary. Let me explain. In most animals, including humans, the neck muscles run almost parallel to the spine. They're designed for small, precise movements. Turning your head, looking up, looking down. But in giraffes, many of these muscles attach at powerful angles. Some at 30 degrees. Some at 45 degrees. And those angles are not random. They create a natural shock-absorbing system. Now, watch what happens during a strike. I'll walk you through it step by step. Phase 1. Contraction. The muscles on one side of the neck contract violently. They pull the head and neck forward with explosive force. The neck accelerates like a giant whip, reaching over 30 miles per hour in a fraction of a second. Phase 2. Braking. But here's the brilliant part. Just milliseconds after contracting, the same muscles on the opposite side of the neck stretch backward. They act as brakes. They slow the motion before the spine tears itself apart. Imagine swinging a baseball bat as hard as you can, but someone grabs it right before it hits your own back. That's what the giraffe's muscles do. They prevent self-destruction. Phase 3. Absorption. Then the ligaments take over. Ligaments are tough, elastic bands that connect bone to bone. In a giraffe's neck, they are unusually thick and springy. After the strike, these ligaments absorb the leftover force, like massive rubber bands snapping back. The result? A perfect biological recoil system. The opponent receives the full impact. The attacker survives the collision with almost no damage to its own spine. Scientists have measured this. Even after thousands of fights, a male giraffe's vertebrae show very few signs of stress fractures. The shock absorber system works incredibly well. And this changes the way we see giraffes completely. Because beneath those calm movements, beneath those long, silent walks across the savannah, is an animal built for combat. An animal whose neck is literally designed to kill. But evolution didn't get this for free. There's a terrible price for such an extreme design. And that price doesn't show up in the bones or muscles. It flows through every artery in the giraffe's body. A giraffe's neck can weigh over 600 pounds. That's as heavy as a small piano. And that weight creates a horrifying biological problem. How do you pump blood 3 meters straight up to the brain, against gravity, without killing the animal? The only solution is pressure. Extreme pressure. A giraffe's systolic blood pressure reaches nearly 300 millimeters of mercury. That's the highest of any land animal. For comparison, a healthy human's blood pressure is around 120. A dog's is even lower. If our bodies operated under the same pressure, our arteries would rupture with every heartbeat. We would bleed internally within minutes. Our kidneys would fail. Our hearts would explode. Yet the giraffe survives. How? Evolution built an emergency control system directly into its blood vessels. Inside the giraffe's neck, there are powerful one-way valves. These valves sit inside the jugular veins and the carotid arteries. Their job is to carefully regulate blood flow. Watch this. When the giraffe lowers its head to drink, bending down 6 feet or more, those valves snap shut. They close instantly. This prevents a deadly surge of blood from rushing into the brain. Without those valves, the animal would lose consciousness in seconds. Its brain would swell. It could die right there at the waterhole. Then, when the giraffe raises its head again, the valves reopen. But they don't open all at once. They open slowly, gradually, over several seconds. This stabilizes circulation before fainting can occur. No blackouts. No dizziness. Just perfect biological timing. And that's not all. Even the artery walls themselves are unusually thick. About 3 times thicker than a human's. They are elastic but tough, like reinforced garden hose. They're built to survive constant high pressure without rupturing. So, here's the big picture. Evolution created a weaponized neck first. A long, powerful, violent neck for fighting. Then, as an afterthought, almost, it was forced to redesign the entire cardiovascular system just to keep the animal alive. The giraffe is not a simple creature. It is a biological compromise pushed to the extreme. An animal held together by thousands of evolutionary patches. And somehow, against all logic, it works. And somehow, the giraffe gets even stranger. Here are 4 facts that sound completely fake. But they are all true. First, birth. A newborn giraffe enters the world already standing nearly 6 feet tall. That's taller than most professional basketball players. Taller than a grown man. But here's the crazy part. The mother gives birth standing up. She doesn't lie down. She doesn't find a soft spot. She just stands there. Which means the calf falls, immediately after being born, from a height of almost 2 meters. It crashes onto the ground. Hard. For almost any other mammal, that fall would be catastrophic. Broken bones. Internal bleeding. Death. For giraffes, it's just Tuesday. Within 1 hour, the calf stands up. Within 1 day, it can run alongside its mother. That's how tough they are. Second, the tongue. A giraffe's tongue can reach nearly half a meter long. That's longer than a standard ruler. And it's not pink like ours. It's dark purple. Almost black. Why? Because the tongue spends hours exposed to the brutal African sun while wrapping around thorny acacia branches. The dark pigmentation is natural sunscreen. It prevents sunburn and tissue damage. Third, the heart. A giraffe's heart weighs over 11 kilograms. That's about 25 pounds. Imagine carrying a large bowling ball inside your chest. Or a medium-sized watermelon. That heart is one of the most powerful in the animal kingdom. It has to be. Because every heartbeat pushes blood upward like a hydraulic pump, lifting liquid to the height of a third-story window. And the heart beats fast, too. Up to 170 beats per minute when the giraffe is running. Fourth, speed. Despite their ridiculous proportions, long neck, long legs, weird gait, giraffes can sprint at over 55 kilometers per hour. That's 35 miles per hour. For context, a racehorse at full gallop runs about the same speed. A human sprinter. 28 miles per hour. You lose. Every time. So, if a giraffe ever decided to chase you, you wouldn't stand a chance. Fortunately for us, they're usually peaceful. They don't want to fight humans. They save their violence for each other. Usually. So, the next time you see a giraffe quietly eating leaves in the African savanna, remember what's really standing there. A skull reinforced like armor. A spine protected by biological shock absorbers. A heart powerful enough to pump blood 3 meters up a moving weapon. The giraffe is not simply tall. It is one of evolution's strangest survival experiments. An animal forced to reinvent its bones, its muscles, its blood vessels, and even its heart, just to make its impossible neck function. And somehow, against all logic, it survived. If you enjoyed this investigation into nature's hidden designs, subscribe for more. Because the deeper we look into the animal kingdom, the less ordinary it becomes.